Hi, everyone. So if you remember last week, we read a story called Tacky the Penguin, and we learned that Tacky was an odd bird. That's what they called him. He was an odd bird. He was different than all the other penguins, wasn't he? But what did they learn about Tacky? They learned that he helped them out. Being different was a good thing. He saved them from all the hunters, didn't he? Well, this week, we're going to read Hooway For Wodney Wat. This story was written by Helen Lester, and it was illustrated by Lynn Munsinger. Those are the same authors and illustrators from Tacky. So, I wonder if if Helen Lester is, if she's going to give the same sort of message, if she has the same theme or the same main idea, the same reason for her story, if they're going to learn a lesson. So we're going to read Hooway For Wodney Wat. Poor Wodney. Wodney Wat. His real name was Rodney Rat, but he couldn't pronounce his R's. To make matters worse, he was a rodent. A wodent. "What's your name, Wodney?" asked the other rodents. "Wodney Wat," whispered Wodney. "What's another name for bunny?" they asked knowingly. "Wabbit," he mumbled. And how does a train travel?" They winked at each other. "A twain twavels on twain twacks," Wodney replied miserably. Making fun of him. All of this teasing day in and day out made Wodney the shyest rodent in his elementary school. His squeak could barely be heard in class. He gnawed lunch alone, and while the other rodents scurried and scooted about at recess, Wodney hid inside his jacket. Poor Wodney. Then, one day, as the rodents were taking turns doing wheelies, a new rodent, a very large rodent, barged into the classroom and announced, "My name is Camilla Capybara. I'm bigger than you, I'm meaner than you, and I'm smarter than you." And then she added, "So there." With that, she accidentally, on purpose, elbowed an ear, bumped two noses, stepped on three tails, and laid on a desk. Fur prickled in fear through the classroom. She sure was bigger than any of them. She sure looked meaner than any of them. Was she smarter than any of them? "What's 2 plus 2? Asked Miss Frizzleworth. "4, shouted Camilla Capybara, without even bothering to raise her paw. "And furthermore, 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16, and 243 plus 125 is 368. Later, when Mrs. Fizzleworth asked, "What's the capital of—" Camilla interrupted, "New York, Albany, population 295,594. And during science, in answer to the question, "What part of a plant is below the ground?" Camilla Capybara danced on her desk and sang, "Root, root, rooty toot toot." Yep, thought all the other rodents. She's smarter than we are, too. They felt very, very uncomfortable. Every afternoon, just before the final recess, Mrs. Fizzleworth drew a name from her hat to see who would be the leader for their favorite game. Simon Says. She scrunched her eyes, closed, and jiggled the hat. Would it be Hairy Hamster, Minnie Feet Mouse, Grizzle Frizz Guinea Pig? Could it be big, mean, smart Camilla Capybara? Hang on just a second. Mrs. Fizzleworth's paw reached in and pulled out the name of Wodney Wat. The bell rang. There was a wild scurry for the door, and Camilla Capybara was the first on the playground, having trampled the others in her path. Oh my goodness. To Wodney, she looked especially scary. What would she do when she heard him speak? Breathe, capybara, breathe in his face. Or tie him up with his own tail, or even pounce on him. The tiny, trembling leader of the game stood before the eager players, his head well inside his jacket, and squeaked, "Wodney says we design." While the other rodents read, "P.S. 142 Elementary School for Rodents," Camilla began pulling up weeds around the sign and wildly flinging them hither and yon till she was clear up to her teeth in dirt. The other rodents began to smile. Wodney says, "Wap your paws around your head." He peeked a little peek out his jacket and saw wop, wop, woppity, slappity, wop. Camilla was whopping her paws around her head so hard she became dizzy, giving herself a headache, and had to sit down. The other rodents couldn't help giggling. Wodney says, "Wing around a wosy." Camilla put out her arms like wings and made an airplane noise. But where was the wosy? What was a wosy? By now, Wodney's voice was stronger, and his head was entirely out of his jacket. "Wake the leaves." Nobody moved. Wodney says, "Wake the leaves." While Harry, Minnie Feet, and Grizzlefrizz and the others busied themselves raking, Camilla Capybara grabbed one leaf. "Wake up!" she yelled. Do you see what's happening? She snatched another, "Come on, you! Up, up, up!" And another, "Rise and shine!" And another, "Boo!" By now, all the other rodents were squealing with laughter, all but Camilla, who frowned. "Stupid leaves, they won't wake up." And why was everyone laughing at her? Such bullies! Why were they laughing at her? In a voice so strong he had to hold his own ears, Wodney called, "Wodney says go west." The rodents collapsed in a happy heap for a rest. Go west. Camilla Capybara, feeling very smart that she could tell directions by the sun, said, "All right, I shall go west." And then she added, "So there." West she stopped forever. She was gone. And from that day on, the pupils of P.S. 142 Elementary School for Rodents never teased Wodney again. He was their hero. "Hooway for Wodney Wat," they cried. "Woot, woot, wooty toot toot." So how did how did he take care of Camilla Capybara? What did he do? What happened? Why was she doing everything wrong and the rest of the students were doing what Wodney asked? Did you figure out what was happening? We're going to read this all week, so I think we'll get it if you haven't yet.